Hello, I'm Tatum, and welcome to another video. I got a microphone.
I don't think I used the microphone correctly because it sounds incredibly muffled, and I'm so sorry. Yes, I do have a degree in film, but that does not mean that I know what I'm doing.
And I decided to make it cute by attaching it to this little ribbon rosette that I made. Here's what it looks like. So hopefully the sound in this video is better. So we're just gonna have to accept that the reflection of my very tall window that I can't block is just gonna be sitting inside of the lenses of my glasses. I feel like that's probably something that you didn't notice until I pointed it out. So now we're all just hyper aware of that. So cool, love that. It's fine. Everything is fine. I just wanted to say thank you to anyone and everyone who watched my last video. I wasn't expecting to get more than 15 to 20 views, so the fact that potentially 100 people, or maybe it was just my mom 100 times, took the time to watch that and listen to me ramble for 10 minutes really means a lot. I have had a notes app list of ideas brewing for what to do my next video about, and in true Tatum fashion, instead of taking the time to, research and write a script and think about all the things that you should think about when making a video, I am just not feeling great today. And I decided that instead of doom scrolling, that I would just set up this camera and this tripod and talk and see if that makes me feel any better. I went to LA last weekend and I was gonna film a vlog, but then I remembered how terrifying it is to film yourself in public.
I'm currently in LA in a hotel room trying to find what angle makes my forehead look less shiny. I am trying to vlog, but I feel like this is gonna be the only clip I end up including from my little LA weekend because I am nervous talking to a camera in public. But for now, I thought I would do a little fit check. Right, here's the outfit. This is not a good angle. I might just put in the vertical one right now. Okay. I got a new tattoo yesterday. It is on the inside of my arm, and it kind of was burning for all of last night. There it is. You don't see it? Can't tell I have a tattoo? Now you can. Whoa. I'm seeing one of my best friends, Sophia, today, so I'm very excited for that. We were college roommates because we both went to school here at USC, but we're going to do some fun little things today, including making charm necklaces at the Haricot Vert pop-up, which is the brand that I hosted a cute little craft night with. So I'm excited to see them on this side of the pond. And then we're also gonna find a photo booth somewhere and get Courage bagels because I had it once in 2023 and it was literally the best bagel of my entire life, and I have been thinking about it ever since. Probably just wander around LA. So I'm stoked and I'm so excited to see Sophia. Yay!
The whole purpose of my trip was to get a new tattoo. It's of a classic car because my dad works with classic cars. Specifically, this kind of classic car holds a lot of meaning to me and my family, even though I still remain in a very weird period of my life, being away from the actual city that I live in and just feeling so far removed from everything ever. It was a nice reminder. I have some people here. I have my people here. I feel like usually the solution to all my problems is getting coffee with a friend and just talking to them and just being reminded that everything is going to be okay. I'm still like way too aware of the reflection in my glasses. So for anyone who didn't watch my last video and needs context as to what the heck I'm talking about, I'm from California, but I've been living in London for the last 4 years. But for the last month, I have been in America sorting out visa issues. I am waiting for the UK to hopefully accept my visa application so that I can return. But in the interim, I'm basically just living and working at home, which has then led me to create YouTube videos out of suburban boredom. I feel like for some reason this morning, it just kind of hit me that I have been home for so long and that I might not be going back for like another 2 or 3 weeks. I initially had booked my flight to return on Monday, which is in 3 days. But since I haven't heard back from the UK embassy, I am going to have to push that back by a few weeks, which means that I will have been home for like 2 months. And then I'm coming home again for winter break. I feel like when this was first all happening, I told myself, silver lining, I get to be home with my family, I get to see some of my childhood friends, I get to see my dog. There's lots of positive to being home. However, it has been a month and like a week now without seeing my cat, my boyfriend, my coworkers, my friends in the UK. When you live abroad, you're kind of living 2 different lives at once. When you're visiting one home, it's not like you're putting the other home on hold. It's just like you're simultaneously existing, but then also feeling this weird sense of FOMO, and it's just extremely complicated. I wrote about it on my Substack. Actually, a lot of my Substacks are about this. It's just difficult sometimes, and this morning I have been finding it particularly difficult. I also have tickets to see Role Model next Tuesday, which is probably not going to happen. I also have tickets to see Lord in a few weeks, and oh my gosh, if I have to miss Lord, I will actually jump. That's a joke. I won't jump. I will just be very sad. I had to sell them. And I have plans with my friends. I'm just realizing that I guess this year I'm having no fall in London. Usually I love the autumnal months in London because the air is crisp and it's cold, but it's still sunny, and there's these really pretty orange and yellow and red leaves lining the streets, and it's still light out, at least for a little bit, and I'm realizing that I'm here, and I probably won't have that this October or November. I don't want to sound like I'm not grateful though. I definitely feel very lucky to have a home and a family to return to in this very strange period of uncertainty, because I totally realize that there are people in my position that don't have the means to sustain themselves while they're waiting for a visa application to get approved. So I'm definitely lucky and grateful for that. It's just weird, okay? Living abroad is weird. Over the years of me being in London, there have been a few people from my hometown or just generally who have messaged me about wanting to move abroad and if I had any advice and how I did it myself. And maybe I'll make a whole other video about exactly how I did it and my journey so far. But sometimes I want to reply to them and be like, don't do it. And I don't mean that in a way of like me wanting to have an individuality complex about living abroad. I just mean it in the way that it has really complicated every aspect of my life. I think it's simultaneously the best and the worst decision I've ever made. Obviously, I don't regret it because I met my partner there. We have a cat. I have progressed my career there in the music industry. I've made some really amazing friendships there. I wouldn't trade any of people and connections and experiences I have had over the last 4 years for the world. But at the same time, living abroad just complicates so many factors of your life. Now that I am in a relationship with someone who is from England, we have to think about where we want to live long term. And when it comes to having kids, I want my kids to be close with their grandmas, but one grandma is going to be in England and the other is going to be in California. So that's one whole thing, is just figuring out like where the hell you're going to live long term. And then obviously visas are difficult to get in both the UK and the US. Love that the governments are just trying to make it impossible for me to live in the UK and for my partner to possibly move to the US one day. There's too many factors that are super confusing. like bank accounts, phone numbers, having both of those exist in the US and the UK, taxes, so many adult things. Like when you're in the UK as a foreigner, you essentially pay double for healthcare because you pay a surcharge for healthcare for the visa when you apply for it. But then when you live in the UK and you're employed by a UK employer, you're also paying taxes towards it. So really, people like me and other Americans that live in London on a visa are paying double for healthcare. There's a whole laundry list of boring things, but I feel like all of those little things just kind of amount to a lot of complex feelings about choosing to have a life in another country. I think it's one of those things where I know that this is what I signed up for, but on the flip side, I think there's something kind of poetic in a way about me having built a life in another country that is worth the turmoil of being away from it for however long it's been now. My friend Tara is also an American who has been living in London for 6 years now, I think. She's a writer, and she sent me this really, really lovely piece that she wrote. It was just like a little notes app situation about reasons to stay, and it was basically a list of all of the things that she loves about London that make it worth staying, despite all of these complex feelings we have about choosing to have a life in another country. There's also so many reasons why we are choosing to have a life in another country. There's so many things that I love about London that make it ultimately worth spending my savings on a visa and patiently waiting for the next 2 weeks to see if I'm allowed to be back. I've also been trying my best to stay creative while being here. It's been difficult because you can only fit so much craft supplies into a suitcase when you're potentially going home for like 1 to 2 months, but I did make these cute little rosettes. I have 2 others that I can overlay somewhere here. One of them is cute. The other one I wasn't really stoked on, but I brought my journal back. I was able to do a little junk journal spread of things I got in Amsterdam. I have been digital scrapbooking. I made this fun little collage of some things that I scanned and things that I drew and also found on Pinterest. And now that I've gone to LA, seen my friends, collected a bunch of little bits and bobs of ephemera and other things, I now have material to make a digital scrapbook. So I think in my next video, I'll do a little design with me and show you guys how I make my digital scrapbook posts, because I feel like that is a big pillar of my online presence at this point. I've also been buying clothes, which kind of goes against my whole ethos of wearing what I have. But you know what? I lost my job. I'm living at home for who knows how long. If I'm sad, you know, a cardigan might make me feel better. And you know what? It did. I love my new Oddly cardigan. I've been wearing it nonstop. Oh my gosh. Also, I was in LA and I met Addison Rae. That was crazy.
This morning I was getting my sweet treat, and guess who was also getting their sweet treat? Addison Rae. I saw her sitting down at the table outside and she was talking to someone, and I was like, should I say something? Then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna say something, because I think that if someone walked up to me and said, I really like the art you make, it would make me feel nice and happy that someone resonated with it. So on my way out, I was like, hi, I'm so sorry to bother, but just wanted to say, like, I love your music, love the album. I was at your London show and it was amazing. And she was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And thanks so much for coming to the show. That means a lot. And I was like, of course, like, thank you. Like, it was such a good show. And then she was like, it was so lovely to meet you. And I was like, it was so lovely to meet you. Have a nice day. And yeah, honestly, it was so nice. She was just so sweet, so bubbly. And yeah, we have no choice but to stan.
So to conclude this video, I thought that I would read the outro for my recent Substack piece, which is called Things Don't Work Out Until Suddenly They Do, because I feel like it is relevant to this entire ramble that I've been having. As I sit in my airplane seat surrounded by strangers who happen to be in the same place at the same time, traveling from London to San Francisco, floating in the air together for the next 8 hours, I think about how lucky I am to have coworkers who are also my close friends, and how lucky I am to have worked at a record label for the last 2 years, something 18-year-old me had dreamt of doing, and how lucky I am to have a partner who tells me how pretty I am the moment I wake up with my retainers glued to my mouth and pimple patches stuck in my hair, and how lucky I am to be growing with the Before Sunrise trilogy, and how lucky I am to have stepped into my dad's childhood home and to have met someone who was once a part of his life. and how lucky I am to have a healthy and loving relationship with my parents who have a healthy and loving relationship with each other. I think about how lucky I am to have connected face to face with 15 online friends last weekend, and how lucky I am to have built a life for myself in London. One that is filled with community and friendship, one that is worth the stress of a visa application and the stress of living so far away from home, and how lucky I am to even have a home and a family to return to in this strange interim period of being 27, living in 2 countries at once, and ultimately, I think about how lucky I am that things don't work out until suddenly they do. And with that, I will see you the next time I decide to film something, and I promise I will write a script and think about what I'm going to say instead of just sitting down and filming. For as much of a planner as I am, I can also be really impatient sometimes. Also, I've decided that my outros are also going to be my fit check. Let's roll the credits. The only credit is me.